You can see windows through the flaps. The MD10 was a cargo aircraft. It didn't have windows.
Yeah, you know that you're now on my stream. We are now live. Yeah.
Oh, are we? Well, shit. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, everyone. If anyone ever actually comes, I need to do. I actually got this all back to front as well, actually. No intros, none of this shit.
You got the overlay up there.
I do. What?
You got the flight sim
Yeah,
overlay,
that's because it's the flight sim
which
screen.
still didn't update.
Right. Right. Did the alert? Did that alert? Announcement. Applets.
They put a countdown.
Huh?
24 minutes.
24 minutes. Right. Well, I don't know what to do. Shall we do this as a podcast, Matthew? What do you reckon?
Well, it's a podcast on Twitch.
TFDi.
Hang on a sec. This mic sounds like ass.
Like ass.
Okay, how's that sound?
That sounds better. Oh, hang on. Oh, well, look at that. Come on. You can see the third engine. It's there.
Well, we've established that it's got a third engine. We just don't know what aircraft.
It looks like an MD11.
DC-10 or the MD11?
It looks like it.
Oh, Colin's getting involved now.
Colin got involved? Where?
Well, that's...
Hello.
He's posted that, which then was screenshotted
I'm
by
streaming
Josh.
your launch. TFDi. No. Where's this? That is clearly an MD11. You can see number 2 engine.
In that fourth picture down the bottom, you can sort of, I don't know, can you tell?
It looks like a higher class submarine. By the way, nice microphone, Matthew.
It is, isn't it? I'm happy with it.
I'm glad that will be your podcast mic. Oh, hang on. Let me just announce this. At everyone, special TFDi launch stream.
For suspected MD11.
This is exciting stuff. Alright, MD11. Seriously though, MD11, that's pretty exciting, I reckon, eh?
But that second, sorry, not second picture, the last picture. I know it's really blurry, but do you reckon you can make out a winglet on the end of that wing?
Don't know.
How long we
Approximately
got?
52 minutes. Oh, bugger. Well, we're going to be... Oh, here's a question. Can we get you on stream to chat to us about it? There we go. Colin, open invite. Come in and say hello.
Probably don't show the chat
Probably not.
between you and him on stream.
No, but yeah, whatever. We'll that. What? Wait, that's a plane? How exciting. 21 minutes. It's a train. It's a bar of soap. Do you really? Susjolo, hello.
Oh, that's a good
How
time for my internet to die.
Mine did too. Yep, mine is dying in the backside. We're back.
Yep, mine died. Yep, looks like we're back.
Okay. Susjolo, hello mate. How are you? Welcome to a special TFDi announcement launch. 20 minutes and 30 seconds to go. I think something exciting about to come out. Something that it has been missed. And I don't know what's going on with my internet. Make no promises. There's going on right, but I believe one of.
What's up? Is one of them?
Apparently, someone's in the chat from TFDi.
Someone's coming to
Yes.
join us.
The countdown is no longer accurate. Oh, love Fabio. Fabio! Hello, mate. Right, do we refresh? No. Okay. Do we have an updated link? TFDi Designs. Please don't be a troll account. Please don't be a troll account. This is exciting. I'm actually really excited for that. So I guess that's irrelevant. Hi, Fabio. Yeah, I can see it. Do I put the green screen up?
Excellent. Welcome, Josh.
Oh, what? We are 100% official. It's Josh. Hi, Josh. At least it's not Captain Sim John. So, we've been sitting here, so when you released your tweet earlier, we've been sitting here talking about this aircraft. Is it the MD10? Is it the MD11? Could it be the DC-10? Is it something that we're completely wrong by? It's really, really exciting.
So just some background. James is in Dubai. I'm in Sydney in Australia. It's currently 6 a.m. my time, midnight James's time, and we've been sitting here for 4 hours waiting for an announcement now.
Which channel are we talking about? Oh, that one. Ooh.
Hello.
Hello, guys.
That'd be great.
Hello.
This is exciting.
It certainly is.
Matt might come in a minute. Matt?
Oh.
Carlos?
See, now the flood
there's
begins.
There we go.
I think I might jump out of my own seat from
Mate,
excitement.
what you guys,
Honestly.
if it is what we think it is, this is absolutely amazing. Like, it's been something that people have called on for years. Robert Rendazzo, please do it for us. And you guys have gone out and done it, if that's what it is. And obviously, you can't say because you've got a countdown, and that countdown on the screen's wrong.
Well, it should be
all
right
I'm gonna
now.
say-
It should be updated, right?
One thing I'm going to say is it's not a continuation of Balsa X. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
I was looking for the
unfortunate,
paper
but I was looking
airplane.
for a sequel for that.
Sorry, man.
Honestly, every year, I don't think we did it last year. I don't remember, but the ball sacks has been this ridiculous product we bring out every year, and I'm so glad it was like last minute the first year, and I'm like, that has just become our thing now. We will continue to do it every year. We might make an iteration of it someday, something different.
The ball sacks 2.0.
Dude, I'm thinking about maybe making one.
Maybe a
Imagine an
tin-pot
amphibious one.
Imagine, that's actually a
Well,
shout.
it doesn't, was it? Fall apart in the water.
There you go. You've got an updated link
Right,
now.
clicking it.
Fantastic.
Go.
What is that? Is that a thing? You just make a random countdown? I didn't know
Yeah, you
that.
could just make a random countdown.
So,
Oh, I'm so hungry, but I haven't a website to update.
how long has this been in development? Do we know? Well,
What, we're talking like somewhere 6 months to a year
wow.
now.
So you've been hiding this.
Oh, yeah. So, as much as we love to talk, we are also, we can be tight-lipped if we have to.
But
Yes.
So we have assembled over the last year. We put a team together of guys who are ready to do this better and faster than the 717 could have ever imagined.
That's good. I mean, if you care to sling me the paint kit when it's announced, and
Hey,
I can
yeah.
start working on some paints for it.
Yeah, hopefully there won't be a year and a half delay before the paint gets out on this one.
Yeah, hopefully.
Ideally, I mean, again, it's so full disclosure, it is way too early for me to talk about beta or release plans or anything. Like we're not there. We're not even next to there as far as that's
Yeah, no,
concerned. But in a perfect world, I would like to have a paint kit available during like the end of the beta, so we could potentially release with, third party or custom liveries. That would be what I want. I can't guarantee that that's going to happen that way. You never know. You could find out a week before release that there's something wrong with the paint kit and we got to redo everything. So that's kind of why we're careful with that. But I don't want there to be this huge delay. I think that really hampered a lot of fun that could have been had with the 717.
Okay, I understand. So today is only the release.
Today's the announcement. We're not releasing
Yeah,
anything.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the announcement.
Yes.
Because
Okay.
Oh man, if today was the
Could
release,
you imagine?
I wouldn't be able to
No,
contain myself. There's no way.
No.
I'd be on a treadmill running 80 miles
You
an
know
hour
that
right
you
now.
would break YouTube,
Damn it.
Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. You would break all of it because we didn't even expect it to happen.
I think you're already breaking them.
Expect what to happen?
Man, we tweeted this out earlier. We were sitting there, we were working on something else, and I'm like, we knew we had to announce this soon. Like it was the time, and we're sitting there, and I think Fabio was either one of the three of us was like, we should just tweet something cryptic.
I think it was me. I was like, why don't we just do like a random picture?
And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah. And we posted. I'm like, I say, I'll bet you there'll be a couple likes. Give it a minute and a half. There'll be a couple likes. And it just like as soon as it was up, within 5 minutes, we were up to double digits in like 5 minutes. I'm like, that is awesome. I didn't expect it to take off that fast.
Well, like I was just,
Yeah, it
I
Pardon the
was just
pun.
on Twitter and I'm going.
it took less than 5 minutes for it to hit streamers on Twitch, and then FS Elite picked it up in about an hour, and the tweets and the retweets and comments were just going and going and going. It's now Reddit, Twitch streamers have got it, Twitter, Facebook. It's everywhere now.
Some people.
It's even on the PMDG forum. Someone commented on Rendazzo's post from yesterday,
Thank you very much,
saying
guys.
that they don't have to worry about the certain aircraft now. Another group's doing something.
Just confirming,
Well, all will be
that's
revealed
the
soon.
real TFDi and not some random bullshit Captain Sim account.
Can
Yeah,
guarantee that is definitely me.
Yes, the three of us are actually us.
We are
Some
all rich
people.
people.
I was just gonna say some people have guessed it correctly, others have not.
Fair enough.
There's actually been a pretty large variety of guesses, considering.
Yeah.
That's actually a good thing, though. You know what? That means people aren't assuming, and I can never complain about that.
I think it's an MD.
That's
So,
it. Biplane
here's the
confirmed.
Can I ask when that screenshot was taken? Like in the modeling like how long ago that was, or is it recent? Or
That's
A
not.
while
oh
ago.
wow,
Wait until you see the announcement post. It makes that look like we just
Oh,
started.
wow. That's pretty impressive. Like our numbers are growing on Twitch. People are starting to watch the stream, which is awesome.
Can you link me to the
Yeah,
stream?
it's twitch.tv.
I can link you.
/
There you go, Colin. I have linked you.
This is why I love being part of a community that can do
Yeah.
this, where we could just
Yeah.
sit here and just talk about it before
Well,
it happens.
it was funny because Matt and I were sitting in my Discord. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's start a podcast thing talking about it. It's like, oh, I might, I'd send you a message earlier about, how the staff and Fabio and Josh and that have done a really, really good job, especially in earlier conversations there. And then, they've done really, really well. And you've kept the hype train going, which is that picture.
Look.
Oh,
Oh.
Oh.
That's
It's
the
like a
image.
BTEC A380.
is that a okay? That's not a real thing. There's no way.
No, it was a proposed aircraft by McDonnell Douglas.
Back in
That's right.
1997.
Imagine.
I was thinking, that looks? I don't know. Is that just some like a Photoshop, that particular one?
Yeah.
Or is that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
that's
was
well
gonna say-
done.
I was
Honestly,
gonna say
like,
that's a good Photoshop.
that's really well done.
The APU inlet is just huge though.
Yeah.
They've taken an MD11 and just gone, oh, we'll double it up and say, hey, look at that.
Yeah, honestly,
pretty
that's-
much it, yeah.
That's if Airbus and MD had a child. That's what that is.
That's the one they swallowed.
Yes.
I'm just gonna
Isn't
say,
that sort of the 717 with the FMC being an Airbus MCDU?
Yes.
we will give you the child of Airbus and MD.
That- I don't know about all that. Yeah, that thing. Oh man, I don't
That's-
even know where to start with that behemoth.
Yep, that's where we're going. I'm afraid. Whoops, just spoiled it. Definitely.
Yep. Imaginary aircraft. All right,
You
so
want
I
to sit
actually.
enough-
All right, so I think what we'll do is, since we're all here, you guys will be literally the first ones to be able to know when to hit F5, because I will literally save it and then tell you guys.
So you've just got it sitting there waiting to tease everyone?
Oh yeah, of course. It's written. So what we're doing now is we have partners and stuff, of course, that we work with prior to doing anything major like this. That we kind of stage everything. Of course, we proofread it a couple of times, stuff like that, just to make sure we're doing our part of it right. So we're going through that process now. I've got to update images and things on the website, and our website, it works, but it's a bit of a process to update like the home banner and
Holy
stuff like
shit,
that. And of course,
picture.
there we go. That's it. Which Quinn just posted. That's it. You guessed it. You guessed it.
That's what we're working on next. That's it. Someone's rattled us.
I'm sorry.
If I can sort of skew the conversation a little bit, I saw that you were speaking about the 717 and V5. What are we looking at with V5 and the 717?
Okay, so here's where we're at with that. It currently works on my system. I've got all the tech converted over to work fine. It's actually a little. It wasn't as much of a copy and paste as I was hoping it would be initially. We actually had to rewrite some of our DirectX stuff because we do use a lot of lower level DirectX APIs to drive the back end of our tech. And because they updated to DirectX 12 in V5, we had to add an additional layer of abstraction for some of our stuff to even make it work. So that's working now, but we're working on a couple of snags with Lockheed that it won't stop you from flying it, but it is definitely not something that we're going to just let go in a released product.
Indeed.
Wow.
Josh may have
Just
tweeted out.
dropped a little tweet out about it for you.
Awesome. I was going to say, if we want to shout that out to somebody, you were one step ahead of me, Josh. You and I have been on like the same wavelength all day, man.
You
All
guys
day.
have been on
Yeah.
point all day.
I haven't talked to these guys about anything that they were doing in this chat because they like I was writing articles and stuff, and we had like 8 meetings. It feels like today. So
Oh,
they
yeah.
left me alone and just did their thing, and I could not be happier. This has been awesome.
Look, my specialty is customer support. My second specialty is messing around with the flight community's
Oh,
feelings.
Fabio, mate, Matt. So here's the thing, Matt down the bottom there, who was with me, he's in Sydney. It's 6:20 in the morning. He was going to go to bed about 3 hours ago. You come out with this announcement. He's gone. What am I supposed to do? And as we've seen in the chat, it's been up and down and playing with emotions. And he's just going, I need to go to bed, and he can't.
Listen, I don't
exciting.
make the rules.
I don't make the rules. I just play with them.
Exactly.
Hey, that's fair.
You know,
I've
for
never
nothing.
seen this many people in this channel, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. I think the only way we'd get more than this is when we actually release the thing.
We're all super excited.
Look, as I said, and I've been a little bit critical on Captain Sim. I think we all have been a little bit lately. But, you know, there's one thing to go and toy with emotions and go and shit on people. And there's another way to go and do what we have been doing, which is what you guys are doing. I don't know why I'm saying we. It's not me. I promise it's not me. But, you know, what you guys are doing, it's really good. You know.
Honestly, we all love this, and even recently we just did a thing where our whole team, because we have another thing that we all do to communicate outside of this Discord, and we just did a thing the other day where it's every Friday we're going to try to plan a group flight for the whole company. That's something we started doing to let us all actually be part of this still, because I think that's a huge part of being able to be on your A game in this industry is actually being in the industry, not just selling to it.
And so what you're saying is we should look at VatSpy and try and find you guys on there to see what aircraft you're flying, or?
Oh, well, after today, it won't be too much of a guess. But yes, the first time you see that type code appear under one of our names, that will be a very good sign.
Oh, this is exciting stuff. We've got 37 minutes to go. And I know that you guys are itching to go. I want to ask the question as well. And I'm sure the people in the chat want to find it out as well. But thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. I actually sent you an email. And I sent you an email earlier today. And then you've come out with this. I've gone, oh, shit, I hope he doesn't see this as me trying to be an opportunistic bastard and get away with it, but then it's all happened so fast.
Oh,
Do you know
no,
what? Let me give you my company TFDi email so that if you ever want any extra stuff that you can ask, and if I can give you, you can get that.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Oh, is it? I just got your email now. I have honestly not even been in my inbox all day.
I've not been in mine today.
So,
I'm just going through now
probably got
beforehand,
other
just making
things on
sure
your
I
mind.
don't
FM Holland, thank you very much
miss
for the
anything.
follow.
No worries, dude.
Oh, he's in the chat. There you go.
Is it this channel?
Cop that one. You get a
I'm here.
personal thanks. There you go.
Oh god, what is that thing? The Carver. that was the thing. They kept for years. Everybody's like, make a Carver, make a Carver. Like every time we posted anything, it was this little screenshot of the Carver, like with the mouth. I've never
don't
seen a
know.
plane that looked so much like it was trying to speak than that one.
Hey, what about the Beluga though?
Oh, no, the Beluga's awesome, right? That is an awesome aircraft. It is. There it is.
Oh,
There's the
that
Carver.
just looks wrong.
Beautiful.
Had a 747.
Who got what?
Hell is bad. What?
Oh?
Wow.
That's a little aggressive. That's a little bit
Okay.
of an aggressive
Ooh.
moderation
Okay.
tool.
That's
Not
the
on my
ultimate
Christian
kicking in.
Discord server.
Is that ground dug?
Bye. Bye.
Christian
It's a
server.
Christian server.
I don't. In all seriousness, I don't want to get into that, but
No.
that was a little aggressive on our moderation there.
John, thank you very much for
Honestly,
the follow. Appreciate
this
it,
server
mate.
went from like 120 people to like 350 in a course of like 2 hours. So like we put in some of our moderation tools we've been testing at JSR just to help kind of stay on top of it because we figured it might get out of control. So some of those might have a little little bit to
that's an
refine.
interesting picture. We don't want to see any of that, do we? Okay.
Oh,
What is that? That's just
that one look.
That's
What?
something that's not getting released.
Okay, now is that like?
the window shattered.
It's called the Boeing 707-344C Falcon. It's a radar
the bottom
plane.
one.
I was gonna say. I'll bet you
that
that's.
detects weather.
Yes,
Why
I
does
bet
it
you
look
that
like
is
a
some
moose who's
radar
just been
thing.
stung on the nose by a bee and had an allergic reaction?
What? You're still
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Good morning, Pale Ale. How are you? We jumped in. We had a bit of an impromptu chat. We're here
Oh,
with
yes.
So, yeah,
Oh,
this
so
is,
that's a real thing.
They
yeah, it's
That's
a real
awesome.
thing.
they've got something to
You can
announce.
never tell, honestly. Like
in
after
about
that first
34
Photoshop, man,
minutes.
like I'm
Looking
not sure.
forward to hearing from it,
Yeah.
and it looks like stuff these guys have
But
been
yeah,
really
this
cool.
is exciting. Hopefully we can get a launch party for when this project eventually releases.
God, I hope so.
Just in this Discord, just being like, okay, well, who wants to get their hands together?
Although, dude, if it's anything like the 717's release, it won't be. Let me actually, you know what? Let me rephrase that. Okay, it won't
we
be.
better.
But yes, as far as like the logistics are concerned, it's gonna be a lot better. But the generally leading up to a release, it is not like we're all sitting back, smoking cigars and drinking whiskey and ready. It's like your head down, both hands on the wheel until it's done.
So I've got a question, and I don't know if you want to answer it now or if you want to leave it for the announcement. Is this that you had the 717? It has shared cockpit in it. Is this one going to have shared cockpit as well?
I can't see us not doing that. It becomes such a big part of what we're doing, and again, without saying too much, the type of aircraft that it is lends itself to that very well.
McLaren
That's
3465.
awesome.
Thank you very
That's
much.
something I would love
Cross-platform.
to see from more developers.
Will it also be cross-platform P3D plus X-Plane, or are you sticking still to the X-Plane? Sorry, to the P3D FSX kind of.
I'm not going to get too much into that yet, but as of right now, the intent out of the gate is P3, V4, and 5, and of course, the elephant in the room is FS 2020.
Yes.
I would like to see it go into that sim. Without knowing the final SDK and everything else that's going on, there's still so many unknowns there that we have not made an official statement on any of our products in it, just because I want to avoid potentially having to go back on them or augment them if we should find out something different. So
That's fair.
we're making it in a way that we can bring it to different platforms, unlike the 717, which is kind of intrinsically married to the way P3D and FSX do it. We're adding a huge layer of isolation between the core systems logic and the displays and all that and the actual sim, which should make it a lot easier to react to the growing demands of the platforms.
One sim that wasn't mentioned there, and I am at the moment, FS 2020 is a big bane of mine because I've seen it and I don't like it at the moment. But is that on the options as well?
Ooh.
I'm sorry?
FS 2020, is that looking forward as well?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying just now. So I would like to. It's just a matter of making sure. Yeah, so everything I just said before was about 2020. X-Plane, we have very little. We have a very little experience in X-Plane. Of course, PAX does have its native PAX bridge, and that's about it. That's as far into that as we've delved yet. So I don't want to sign up for something without being able to say with confidence that it's actually going to happen. And again, the market will kind of tell us when we get there if/what we need.
Yeah, I can say from personal experience, hey Colin, that X-Plane is very interesting to develop for. Just because of its APIs and whatnot, you have to do a layer of abstraction between C++ code, and because of the OpenGL contexting, there's a decent bit you have to code from the ground up.
That's kind of why we're designing it with our own stuff separated from whatever the sim is. Whether it ends up in X-Plane or not is a different question, but I don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot and be unable to support it if we should choose to in the future. Although as of now, I don't think it's in the immediate plans.
There we go.
I'm always notoriously vague when I answer that question because I don't want to limit us. I don't want to get false hope, but I also don't want to limit us should we change our minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we? We are 31 minutes out. What? Is there anything about this that you didn't like that during the development stage of what it may be, or?
Well, we're still relatively early on, so we spent a lot of time planning this one out, and because of the 717, we got to see a lot of great successes and also a lot of things we probably won't repeat. And because of that, we spent a lot of time focusing on ways we can optimize our infrastructure. We've got a much better system. Even the way we handle our code submission, we have a much better Git solution now. We have better file sharing and this Office software, better communication platform, better team structure. Like we've kind of used the last couple of years to really build a springboard to do this a lot quicker and faster. Part of the stage that we're at with the product now is with this new upcoming product is that once it's announced, we're going to start looking for community input again on not only the accuracy of the product but also their own resources, people submitting, their
I think
videos,
we saw someone
pictures,
there earlier
documents, whatever they might have.
with an American Airlines manual, if that's the aircraft. So you got plenty of resources there ready to go.
Yes, it takes a surprising amount of resources to get some. Even like the 717, by the time we were done in that, we had hundreds of photos. We had trips to and from, simulators and aircraft to be able to get the photos and videos we needed. We had pilots on standby, mechanics on standby. It took a lot to get that thing to where it was. And there are still some things where we kind of had to take an educated guess. And I think there always will be, unless I'm not the one that built the actual plane. And as long as that's the case, I'm always going to get to a point in the code where we're like, yeah, that makes sense.
So, Colin, I have a really pressing question here, which is it's going to answer something that we saw way earlier in the Discord, way earlier, which was we talked about X-Plane and P3D. What does it cost you as a developer to actually go and create that before you even get to the point of release?
What do you mean? Oh, like what the cost of developing one of these?
So the cost to for going out, looking at the aircraft simulators and that, because obviously you're not getting it for free. So what kind of costs are involved to for your overheads to go and develop this before you even sell it?
So I feel it. I'm going to be very careful how I answer that
do.
because I feel that it's a very different answer depending on the company, product, and even the market at the time and the expectations of the product. If you're going for that absolute like level D type simulation, not level D like the company, but like full motion simulator type simulation, that's going to be a lot different than maybe something more in the entertainment spectrum. For us, the biggest. Now I'm not going to get into staffing costs. Right? That's not really my place to say. We've got guys that have their own arrangement, but as far as like the raw cost of the collecting the assets, sometimes it's as easy as just paying for the flight to get out somewhere. Sometimes we get lucky and people will send us resources and things just out of the kindness of their heart and the desire to see the better product. Sometimes it's a little more and we actually have to contact manufacturers and work out deals and things. And it can vary dramatically even within the same product. So I can't really give a solid number.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. But the only reason why I asked that is because what we see as a community, and I speak about this a little bit in my stream, is that, there's one thing that, we complain about PMDG and we complain about FS Labs charging 135 to 150 US for an aircraft, and people go, well, that's quite expensive. But what a lot of people don't realize is, one, the cost that goes in to make that, but also how much it costs to provide the ongoing support that these companies do. And that's why I sort of asked that question, to see if maybe because we have the ability of a developer and people are going to watch this later on, maybe we can actually make that point and say, hey, this is where the actual cost is to help us go on.
Well, you touched on something interesting there too, because that's even something that happened to us with the 717. I have my opinion on what I consider a reasonable price for a product. I think they're, and I know the people that price their products very differently than mine, and I have no problem with it personally because I understand it. At the end of the day, it's their business, it's their product, and an enormous amount of work does go into this. Something that I know that we really didn't consider up front with the 717 as much as we should have was the cost of the support.
Yep.
We priced that product very much on what went into it, not what was going to go into it. And that's something that we noticed. There should not need to be as much post-release support for this upcoming one, again, with it coming out in a state where it's actually ready for it, and we can kind of prepare for that a little better. But I think that is definitely part of it. The post-release support cost adds up a lot quicker than I think most people consider, including us. The cost of ongoing forums, the tickets, hiring staff that help us field that information. That probably, in my opinion, could cost as much as or more than like the assets and resource acquisition during the initial development.
But at the same time, in terms of cost, from you guys, the 717 for me was a day one purchase. It's one of my favorite aircraft. I couldn't go past it, and I followed it from, I don't know, when I first saw the first renders of the cockpit from then I followed it all the way up to release. Bought it on the day it was, I don't know, 23rd of December or whatever it was. And from then on I said, not only are you guys extremely accessible when it comes to support and any little things like that, like you're different from a lot of developers in the sense that you listen to the community and you try and you as much as you can to implement the changes or the fixes that need to be implemented to get the aircraft to where it belongs. And the 717 was what, $60 or something US. For me, even that's cheap. I thought it could have been 100 and I would still buy it. It could be 150, I would still buy it. And from then on, I said the same thing. Anything that comes out of you guys, because of the way that you are with the community and the quality of your product, the quality of your service, I don't have an issue buying something that's $130, $150. Like, it's up there.
Honestly, it means a lot that you feel that way about it. Good.
I'd like to second that as well, actually, because like, whenever I need a bit of support, something's not quite works, like I drop you a message, you're quick to respond, you're always there to help, and TFDi, you guys are really accessible. You guys are happy to help. I mean, the level of quality in your products, they are top of the range, top spec stuff that it's really enjoyable to use. 717 especially, I mean, it's not exactly the most common aircraft out there, 71, but the way you guys have done it, built it, implemented the sim, it's so much fun to fly. It's a beautiful aircraft, and even flying in the sims, it's a joy.
I can say on behalf of everybody that worked on it and the current team, it means a lot. As far as being accessible, all of us have kind of always been under the same idea. Like, nobody's perfect, right? And you could try, you could spend a ton of time testing and developing, and you can get something that's very close to perfect and may be perfect in some people's eyes. But I feel like there's inevitably always going to be something that goes wrong. There's going to be something that happens that needs help. And instead of us worrying about trying to be perfect, like, of course, we put an effort in testing and development. I don't want to make it seem like we just don't try to get it right in lieu of supporting it after the fact, because that's not the case either.
Make sure that you do hit that follow button if you can.
Where it's like we know that somebody's going to have a question. Somebody else, there's 10 of us, 15 of us, something like that, and there are thousands of people that fly these products and use these planes. So how are 10 people or 15 people going to decide what 5,000-10,000 people are going to like and need? So that's kind of why we have the idea that we do, and it's also, we enjoy it. Ultimately, we enjoy it. We don't just want to sit here and watch people talk about it. We want to be part of it. We want to talk about it. We want to fly it. We want to see streams of it and photos and stuff.
Follow. Appreciate it.
And if I may, John,
Fabian.
I was just going to say a lot of time as well from me is I spend a lot of my time making sure that all the developers, they don't have to worry about being able to support people. Obviously they have to if it comes to that point, but I do a lot of work making sure that I get people as far as they can, usually get like 95% of things sorted so that they don't have to, and that will make the process of developing this new project a lot quicker.
So Fabio, what's your role within all this?
So I'm customer support guy. I basically
he is your first line of contact. Anytime anybody has a question, concern, or problem, he is the one that fields that first.
Yeah.
And Josh, what's yours?
Paul,
so,
yeah,
what's your position within the company? Just so we sort of get a picture of who's where and everywhere.
Yeah, I'm essentially Colin's right-hand man. I'm the vice president.
Cool.
So I don't get much into developing, though.
Which honestly kind of works out, because he is the everything that comes into my queue, and I'm like, oh god, I don't have time for this. Josh, please. He is my the asterisk at the end of my asterisk.
I am the 2 asterisks.
So I'm curious. So you're a developer, and you go, right, we developed the 717, and we developed the Balsa X, and we said this is a great add-on. What goes with your mind and says, I want to develop this aircraft or that aircraft? What is it? Do you have an affiliation with the aircraft? Do you have an affection with the aircraft? What makes you choose that one aircraft?
Well, as a fun fact, we actually had another one that we had planned to do before this, and for a variety of reasons, it just ended up not happening.
What it is?
And unfortunately, I cannot go into that. I'm sorry. But the way we got to this one, and again, it'll kind of make sense once all will be revealed. I don't want to keep giving that answer, but it's a whole variety of things. It's our personal interest in the product. It's does it make sense with our technology? Like, okay, I'll tell you right now, it's not an Airbus. The
I think we're glad
717 is
about that.
closer to a Boeing than it is to an Airbus. And the way, I've personally have much more experience with Boeing products and Boeing aircraft over the years, and it's easier for me to get into the mindset of like, the 717 or something like that than it would be to say like, an A350. Like, it's not an A350, obviously. I'm going to say that right now. It's not. That's a very complex aircraft. So it's that, it's cost, it's what the market wants, it's a whole bunch of things that kind of all get weighed in together. But ultimately, it comes down to, does the team want to work on it too? Like, that's the other thing is, we all enjoy this. I want our guys to enjoy this. I want to enjoy it. So it's a whole complex formula of pretty much, do any of the following check marks say we can't do it? If the answer is no, okay, that goes on the table and we talk about it.
Mason's just said here, TFDi has been top-notch support for me anyway, always very fast and a sense of urgency. Remember, people buy from people.
I agree. We have always been, and Josh and Fabio, hopefully you can confirm this too. Even internally, we're people first. We're not boss and employee or leader and underling or anything like that. I hate that type of mentality. It's always people first, and then whatever your role is.
It's like, even though we've got titles, we still we lead by example. Like, we get involved as well. We don't just sit there and make everyone do everything else. Everyone's involved equally.
Just quickly, Johnny, yes, the TFDi team here on the stream, they're going to be talking about a new release in 19 minutes and 19 seconds, I think. The question I have here is, based on... So Navigraph did a survey, and I have a very big pain in my ass about this because there was some data that they never released, and that was what the people wanted. Did you guys get access to that data?
Honestly, I don't want to say one way or another because I saw the email come in from, we got some type of survey information, but it's been so long. I think we just got the same survey everybody else got, like the community choice survey.
Tom, they've said that they've been working on this for the last 6 to 12 months, so it's not brand new. It's not something that they've just come up with in the last couple of weeks. It's been worked on for the last year. Is that correct, Colin?
Give or take. I could go back and find the exact start date, but it's been the gears have been turning for a little bit now.
Gears,
Been a sweet minute.
It's very exciting.
Gear Turbo fan?
So, in terms of TFDi as a group, did you guys start out as just simmers and decided that there was a hole in the the aircraft market and you wanted to fill that hole, or was it something? What was the motivation behind starting the group?
So the company as a whole has kind of shrunk and grown and morphed over the last 10, it's coming up on 10 years now, a little over 10 years. We started off initially as a bunch of teenagers, and I was like 12 when the first time I ever released anything. Technically, I was like 12, and then I was 11 years ago. But
what that was?
So, at the risk of stepping on toes, so when I was a kid, I used to fly the Project Open Sky 737.
Who did?
And I loved it. Yeah, and again, this is back in like 2008, 2009, like the early days. And I had loved it, but I found that it didn't have the cockpit by default. It was just a 2D panel. There's a couple of other little things that now, looking back in terms of complexity, are not that significant. But at the time, I'm like, what? I think I can fix this. And I just kind of stuck a bunch of files together. Again, didn't do anything great, but at the age, it felt like rocket science. And I really sent that out, and it kind of came across the wrong way because at that age, I didn't know really how to properly give credit. And I think I kind of unintentionally took credit for some of it. I of course amended that later, but I got out there and a bunch of people downloaded it and they were flying it and they were really enjoying it. And above anything else, I'm like, this is really cool, man. Like, I could put some time into something and other people are going to enjoy that. And we kind of springboarded off, and it was all for free. Now, I want to make sure I make that clear. Like, nobody made money off anybody else's stuff. It was just a clerical thing. But we went on from there. A couple years later, we're like, wow, we can actually do something with this. We got a little better, developed a little more, learned a little more technology. We ended up making a sound pack. That was the first thing we ever sold, was a 737 sound pack, like 9 years ago. And we made that, and that worked out for what it was pretty well. That had a couple of evolutions. It's our 737 Extreme sound package now. It's still around technically. It's a little dated, but it is there. That was the first thing we did, and we did some web hosting, little stuff, and then at some point we were talking about it, and somebody brought up the 717 because we had tried to do a 737 Classic before it, the 34500, and we had some of the team that we needed, but at that age, with the amount of experience that we had, we just didn't quite have the follow through to make it happen. Yep. And that kind of went away, and we went back and worked on other ways to become better developers and a better team. And then the 717 got recommended to us, and we looked at it and we thought, you know what? This is kind of a huge hole in the
Oh, it
market
is.
right now. There is.
You know, because you had Leonardo with the Mad Dog, but the 717 was never there, and you know it was great when it came out.
That's how we got started, and we're like, yeah, you know what? And then this was in like 2000, I think it was 2012, 2014. We announced it. Like it went on forever. And over the years, we had smart cars come out. We had update to smart cars. We had other stuff going with hosting and things. We always were kind of just plugging along at it, and eventually it ended up that it actually happened. Like it kind of felt like a dream come true. For the longest time, again, you're 16, 17 years old. I didn't think I knew we'd get there because like I believed in the team and in the work, but it felt surreal when we actually got to the point like we had created an entire airplane, virtually, of course. And then once you do it once, that's it, man. It's as stressful as it can be. It's hard to stop.
Just quickly, for those that are joining the Discord for TFDi, go into rules and info, and then go here. You gotta click the little button down here, and that will get you to everywhere else. Got a bit of promotion here. It's good, eh?
And in terms of aircraft development going forward, all right, it may or may not be a question in your mind right now. After this current aircraft, have you already got an idea, even if it's 5-10 years in the future, have you got an idea of what you're going to do next, or a thought about, I want to do this next?
The Supersonic Bayonet, thank you. I've changed.
There's always thoughts across your mind. I mean, we've considered doing all kinds of things, ranging from like general aviation stuff that interests our team, all the way up to the huge airliners. So it's something you think about, but the market changes so quickly, and especially with the new simulator around the corner, I think that's going to jumpstart development for a lot of companies. So of course we have some ideas on the table, but we kind of just want to monitor the industry and our partners and see where the demand is, where our interest is, and where our work will be most helpful to the community.
And you mentioned the 737 Classic series. Is that something that you would revisit, or is that just off the table?
Probably not at this point.
Okay, because that's another whole just, and for a while Enigma Simulations was doing it, then they went to Quality Wings, and then that fell apart. So it's unfortunate. It's another hole in the community, but eventually maybe we'll see something.
I hope so.
It's interesting to see. There's been a lot of attention more to the retro market now, I guess you could say. So like in regards to, we just seen the 767, it's still being produced, brand new aircraft, but it's more of an older aircraft. You've seen the callback on the classics, the 737 classics, and all that sort of stuff. It's really cool to see that this kind of technology is still wanted in the community.
It's nice to see, honestly, and I think that doing the older stuff, it has a different type of approach. You have the really competitive modern aviation market, which is where the I can't remember, there's the CRJ, there's the new ERJs, stuff like that, the A350, and that's a whole different market versus like some of the, even if you go back a little further than like the 717. 717 is not that old in all seriousness. But like you look back at the 707, the 727, it's such a different flying experience. Even though they're both commercial aircraft, it's different mentality, different way of thinking, a whole different era, kind of embodied in an airplane.
Yeah, fair enough. That's cool. And just quickly, I would like to thank you guys very much for the opportunity. I've never actually done this. I don't think you guys have done it either, but it's really, really good to see that you guys are voting for confidence in me. Side note from me.
Well, it's great to see that you have 72 viewers watching.
Well, this is true.
That is awesome.
It's interesting, just thinking back now, when you guys did a stream with the 717 back before it was released, and I actually think it was that stream that made me sign up to Twitch.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
4 or 5 years ago now, whenever it was, but yeah, I think I'm pretty sure that's when I first signed up to Twitch. So it's interesting to come full circle, sort of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully, just quickly, I'm going to plug someone here. So the person that's just talking, guys, Matt Tank, go to the repaint and the Facebook page as well. It's just there in the chat. Get onto that !Tank. Really good repainter. Check it all out. Anyway, that's my plug done. We got 10 minutes to go. Are you guys excited as I am?
Oh, I'm pumped. As much as I hate to do it, though, I do actually have to mute myself here for a couple minutes. I've got to get the
That's fine.
product page ready to go. So of course, now again, it's not being released, but I want to have
Oh,
something
that's
there
fair
for
enough.
when people
So
are
you're
looking
gonna come back
information.
on the last minute, and we're gonna talk about it, or what's gonna go on? All right.
Yes,
Beautiful.
of course
I
I
might
am.
talk to Fabio and the guys from the development team then, eh?
Absolutely.
So, okay, Fabio is working in development, correct? Am I right with that?
Support,
right?
kind of
Okay.
slightly going into development over
Okay.
time.
And Josh is the right hand man, makes everything else happen, right? Have we got any developers
Yeah.
with us?
I don't believe we've got
Okay.
any in this chat with us at
That's
the minute.
fair
No.
enough. But what's some of the things that you actually, as a quick side note, what do you enjoy from Flight Sim? What kind of things do you enjoy about it?
I mean, with flight sim, everyone gets into it for their own reasons. I've been in flight sim now for probably 16 years, and it's always been something that since I was like a little kid at 4 years old when I got my first simulator, it's just something that I've always been interested in. Like I've always enjoyed looking at planes, so it made sense for me to kind of go through and start getting into flight sim. So again, like Colin did, I started out with the Project Open Sky, the default aircraft. Like I remember flying the default 777 in FS 2004. Like that's one of my earliest memories of flight sim. But it's how you go from one thing to another, and now being what I do in this job, it's I love it. I don't know what it is in particular, just enjoy it. It's just nice.
Yeah, it's interesting that you can stay involved in a community or a hobby for that long. You're saying the default 777 in FS 2004. It was the same for me with FS 2002. The 777, and back then, 12-year-old kid, I thought it was amazing. And the leaps and bounds we've come now in the past 18 years since I first got that sim, it's insane.
Yeah.
To things like the 717, the 777, the 747 from PMDG, from where we all started with things like the Project Open Sky 737, which almost everyone had because they were the premier developer back then, really. And now where we are with the standard of aircraft, it's hard to think that we ever came from that,
There it is there.
like all the way back there.
There
That
it
is
is.
it.
Yeah, that's the
I
one.
think we all grew up on that, didn't we? Once upon a time.
I remember landing it on grass and thinking I was amazing at landing it on grass.
I tell you, just as a quick side note, one of the things that you guys just released an update for the 717. I've actually finally been able to stream the aircraft because it was something OBS couldn't generate the image. The encoder used to have very big problems with it. Now being able to stream it, it's so fun to fly, especially because in Australia it's a lot of bush flying, and so there's a lot of unprepared strips, and then you've got Hawaii as well. So there's a lot of places you can take the 717. But I'm hoping that this new aircraft might be able to open a few more ventures and a bit more history, especially Kai Tak.
I would imagine so. It's one of those aircraft that you'll be surprised at how often it's
Oh
flown.
yeah.
Like it's become a staple for modern flight sim essentially. So it is one of those where you'll see once we announce which one we're doing, you'll be like, wow, like you say, we'll open up many different doors for various different things, various different routes. So it'd be quite nice to see where it could go.
Well,
I'm very excited.
what about you, Fabio? What's some of your best memories with flight sim and all that kind of stuff, and obviously and with TFDi?
So I came from Portugal and then moved up to the UK. So I actually flew on a plane at age 7 and have been fascinated with them ever since. And I've only recently gotten a rig powerful enough to finally do flight sim, but before that, I've been watching loads of videos of just like people flying, and I was like, I really want to do this. And then I got into it, and just learned about TFDi. Did some work over at Jetstream as a volunteer, and they were like, "Do you want to bring yourself onto support?" I was like, "Hell yeah!"
Jetstream Radio. What? Tell us about that. What is Jetstream Radio? Because I saw it being asked before.
It's just a radio station that you can listen to on smart cars or on the website, and it's just got some really of the most modern tunes, and you've got loads of DJs that go on every once in a while. They're really good at what they do. They play some awesome music.
Cool.
I mean, it started out just being out for a radio station in smart cars, literally just to be there to provide some entertainment, and it's grown massively since then. Like I think I joined October 2016. So that gives you an idea of how long ago it's kind of been there. And obviously, I worked my way up through Jetstream, did different things, and obviously got on board at TFDi nearly 2 years ago now. And again, you once you work up, and Jetstream's great. it's honestly really, really good. And the reach that we have and the ability that we're able to affect the community and give our viewpoints and for people to come and know it's like a hub of good music and good people. That's what we were kind of aiming for, and it's grown massively out of proportion to what we were expecting it to be a few years ago.
Just a quick second, we got some follows coming in. Ahatu 2020, Paddle Bus, iFly Aviation, Flight Deck PMI. Thank you very much for the follows. iFly Aviation, hello from the I guess the TFDi team. They're excited. I think we're all excited. We're into 5 minutes.
And I think James needs to thank the TFDi team. This is currently the highest amount of viewers he's had on his stream.
And concurrently too. So thank you very much for joining in to the stream. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the follows. We're trying to chase 1,000 followers. We're trying to get 1,000 followers. We're going to hit a 24-hour stream, and hopefully we'll have some prizes as well. Holy crap! 4 more come in there.
That's awesome, man.
Wow, look at that. We're going to get to 1,000, but that's
Great to
insane.
hear.
You guys have made this all possible, so thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it.
No problem, man.
Look at that.
Thank you for giving us a platform.
Oh, we were just sitting there. We were literally just sitting there. Holy crap. It's just gone nuts.
Hey, you're over 100.
Are we?
Hey,
Holy
congrats.
shit, we are too. Holy shite. Don't swear. Don't swear. Look at that. Welcome everyone. Thank you very much. But yeah, TFDi, thank you very much for the opportunity. I didn't even expect this to happen. It's 1 AM here in Dubai, and you guys given the opportunity, and I'm glad to be able to sort of deliver this. It's really exciting. So thank you very much.
Well, we're nearly there.
We got 94.
It's getting exciting.
4 minutes.
4
to go.
minutes. And we got 94
Very
viewers.
exciting.
Followers are going nuts. Wow.
That's honestly, it is exciting. It is as exciting for me to see that we have enough pull to bring that many people along with you.
Yeah.
Like that is, it's very humbling.
Colin,
honestly.
thank you very much for the opportunity. It's you know. Oh, we have a subscribe. Way.
Hey.
I don't,
This is insane. I literally have my mouse on the button. As soon as I click yes, the
thank you
file
very much,
uploads
El
and we're good.
Padre. Look at that.
I got my publish button ready.
Awesome.
Guys, you guys are fantastic. We've got what? We got 3.5 minutes to go. That's insane.
Not long.
Not long at all.
So is there anything that you want to add, Colin, before we sort of head into the little last bit of the countdown?
Honestly, we've talked about it so much so far. I think that I'm just gonna wait and let the hype build because there's definitely gonna be questions once we announce it, and I want to be able to answer those.
Definitely.
I'm gonna use this time actually to probably hit the bathroom, make sure I have some water, so I can be fully engrossed in what's about to happen.
I've just had a cup of tea, so I'm there now.
Everyone's ready?
Josh, can you hear those engines again?
I think I might. Oh, I can.
I think I can hear those engines again.
How many can you hear? I can hear definitely one.
I can hear 2, I
Jeez,
think.
it's all coming in. 2 engines, guys. 2 engines.
Oh.
2 engines. Definitely got 2 engines. Yeah.
I'm just hearing it pull back on the yoke.
Is that a?
Can you hear
is that
any
a
more?
female
Colin?
voice?
Yeah, Colin, can you hear any
Is
more?
the name Betty by chance?
I don't know yet.
I don't know. I'm stuck between 2.
Oh, this is an interesting question. Is it the 2-engine DC-10? I wonder.
What?
Did you guys never know about that? Did you guys never know about the? There it is. There.
What? The specific American Airlines
Yeah,
one?
there it is. There in the chat. The 2-engine DC-10.
Colin, how many engines can you hear? I've got 2 at the minute.
I think I might see a shadow of one more.
Ooh.
Yeah, I thought so.
Oh, yeah, I thought so as well. That's interesting.
Mason 1055, thank you very much for the 500 biddies. DJ Bowley, thank you very much for the Twitch Prime, and Omejip, thank you very much for the Twitch Prime as well. Look at you, amazing people. 94 and a follow. Belgian Tiger.
Fabio,
Yes.
can you resend that countdown link here? I want to make sure I do it at exact.
Should I hit the
exact
refresh button?
Yeah.
Not yet, not yet.
Okay.
I'm making sure I want to be on the same countdown as everybody else, so we don't end up with a delay.
It's 5
Right,
gifted
the
subs.
countdown is in the general chat, guys.
I'm gonna have.
Now it is. There we go.
There it is. This is the most people I've ever seen in this channel. This is awesome.
Yeah.
This is excitement. There's really
Colin, I think you're right. I think I can hear the 3rd.
I
Let's
think
hope
so.
my internet doesn't die.
It certainly smells like enough jet fuel for 3.
It's getting loud.
Getting really loud.
Yeah.
Could it be?
Mr. Ozzy, very nice stream,
Thank
sir.
you very much, Aviator.
One
Thank you very
minute
much.
to go, guys.
Appreciate it. Matt, thank you very much for the 5 gifted subs.
It's all building.
Wow, look at that.
There we go. 150
What?
right now.
150 viewers.
Oh
Congrats, man.
shit, we are too. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, I think I'm gonna have to pause the alerts. I think I'm gonna have to do it.
39. All right.
Oh,
All right. There we go. We're down to
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Guys, I'm gonna pause the
Josh, there's
alerts.
3
I'm gonna
engines.
pause the
That's
alerts.
it. Yeah, I can see the third one.
There's the
Colin,
third
can you see it?
Who's doing
You know, the
TFDi?
volume. See, the thing about this though, is everybody's hype's turned up to a 10 right now. I know that. Everybody's pumped,
Yeah.
right? We got about 15 seconds left. So, you
14.
think we could?
13.
10 seconds to go. Welcome everyone to the channel.
10, 9,
7,
8, 7,
5,
6,
4,
5,
3,
4,
2,
5,
1.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
What have we got? What have we got?
So I got a question for everybody. I got
Everyone
a question
press
for everybody.
F5.
What have we got?
There we
Everyone
go.
gets a side
You,
for it.
you guys
Ashes.
think we can? You guys think we could turn the hype up to 11?
Can we?
Yeah.
There it is.
Where is it? Where are we looking?
Right.
The blog.
On their
Oh, hang
website,
on.
James. Here you go.
Oh, there it
I see it, I
is.
see it, I see it.
There it is.
Wait, what
There it
site
is,
crashed?
There it is. It's the MD11. Look at that.
You guys have made my day.
What is? Look at that. That is epic. There it is, guys. It is the McDonnell Douglas MD11. Something that we have wanted for forever and a day in P3D V4 and hopefully V5 and hopefully into the future. You guys are freaking amazing. Well done. Round of applause to you guys. Well done. Great job.
Absolutely
Thank you,
made
thank
our
you.
day.
I thought about that whole "can we turn it up to 11" thing like a minute before. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be
I didn't even pick up to it. I'm like, let's go. Oh my god, look at that. Look at that.
This is the bit- This is the bit where we go. You should read the post.
Read the post.
It
definitely.
will answer a lot of questions that you may have.
Okay.
Yeah, so that post, I do also touch on a couple of other housekeeping things, just in case people weren't here for us talking about V5 support and all
Alright,
that.
let's have a look. Look at that. That is freaking epic, guys. Thank you very much. Announcing the TFDi Design MD11.
Absolutely amazing.
So let's have a look. What do we got? Okay, is it FS 2020 compatible? There's your first question. No, we cannot announce a release date. With that said, we are actually announcing this project a tad earlier than we originally expected. Although progress has been solid and relatively quick, our intent was to show the aircraft off working in sim. Now my question here is, guys, is that because of what a certain publisher said earlier on in the day, or is this because that you wanted to push this out, or that you were going to sort of announce it today anyway?
Okay, so we were kind of, our original plan was to announce this at Flight Sim Expo. We were kind of pushing to have something we could show off at Expo, maybe Cosford if that didn't work. That's why I kind of said we did move it up just a little bit, because it wasn't so much that they said something else, because obviously there was another announcement. I like the guys over there. It has nothing to do with them. It's more that I didn't want the community to think that there wasn't going to be one. So we moved our plans up just a little bit to make sure that there wasn't as much of a gap.
Okay, it's for P3D V5, True Glass for V5, PackX. We are using feedback we received for the community survey and develop and refine the product. Okay, smart cars. Yep, cool. All right. Is there any comments that you guys want to add in right now? Because that's freaking amazing news. That is awesome news. The floor is open, everyone. Please go and ask your questions. I guess we're here to ask the developers at TFDi what you guys, all your burning questions, I guess.
Absolutely.
So many questions.
Yeah, pretty much a direct line straight
When does
into our
it
desk
release?
right now. I knew it.
There's
I
the
knew
first
it.
question.
Not that question.
The first
much-
question.
How much will it cost?
Okay, so that's kind of a. All right, it will be more than the 717, but as of right now, I do not anticipate it breaking triple
Oh, wow.
digits.
Okay.
Try and keep the questions reasonable too, guys. There's obviously going to be questions that they can't answer. Try and keep that in mind when you ask a question.
Can I see the number 376 screw on the fuselage?
Oh, absolutely. I'll make sure we write it specifically. We'll sign your name into it.
Yes.
That's our first question is, okay, it's answered. There will be a freighter version. So what versions are we looking at with the MD11? Are we looking at the MD11 with the freighter version? Are we looking at the MD10 and to a lesser extent the DC10, or is it just purely the MD11?
So this product itself is going to be just the MD11, but of course that does come. There is the passenger iteration of that and the freighter, as well as different engine variants. The real ones do have a ridiculous amount of options for overhead panel configuration and things like that. We're going to try to get the common ones, but I make no promises of us having every possible option and combination.
Will it simulate dial a flap?
The 717 does.
Okay, so the MD11 will.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Okay. Will the freighter be an expansion?
In the Twitch chat. Yeah, that's
Honestly, it's going to depend entirely on how much it really goes into us doing it. If it's just a matter of a slightly different FDE and otherwise, same system, same aircraft, I would be more inclined to say no. Again, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot and say no and have to charge or say we're going to and then not. But it all comes down to how much work it's really going to be. If the price that we're charging is reasonable, that would encompass that amount of work, then no. If it's a whole mega change, then it might. Up to date, we've never done an add-on, quote unquote, to any of our products. So I think we would be more inclined to try to price it appropriately for the whole package than try to add the added complexity of supporting different levels of the same product.
Cool. Love Road, the project started about a year ago.
Another question there is about engine variants. It's probably a question that's a simple answer, yes or no, but will it have the multiple engine I mean, there's only 2 engine variants for it, right?
Yeah, I think it's off the top of my head, it's the Pratts and the GW, right?
Yeah. So it will have both of those variants, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so it won't be something like what's their
certain
name, Captain Sim, to pay extra for the other engine.
Well, I wasn't gonna mention, but yeah.
No, similarly, just like the whole freighter thing, especially something like engine variant. No, we will not charge for a different engine variant. The freighter thing, technically, it's on the edge for me because although it's still the same product, it's a totally different application of it. So again, without it being, if it's not dramatically different, no. But engines, no. That's part of the product itself to me.
I mean, again, coming back to personally me, if the freighter variant was an expansion, if it was separate purchase from the base, I would be fine with that. Because I know whatever you guys put out is quality, it's worth it. I'm okay with that. The wider community, I'm not so sure about them. I don't know how they feel about it, but personally, I would be okay.
The next, sorry.
And it wouldn't. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Your chime, not mine.
I would say, and if we did, it wouldn't be a ridiculous price either. No, it wouldn't be half the original product price over again. Not that that's a dig at anybody that does that. Again, there's a lot of work that goes into these. In our case, it's just that's how we believe.
Colin, drop that.
Oh. I have a question for you, Colin. Are you going to do anything special for the center MCDU?
So that's an interesting thing so far. The way that the FMS was done in the 717 is it was essentially 2 skins to the same internal flight computer. We added items that simulated. So the CDU is coded separate from the computer itself. So you could have independent messages, independent pages, but they controlled the same central data. There's no reason we couldn't expand that system and kind of do that for the MD11 as well.
Couple of questions. Any visions for Microsoft Flight Simulator?
I would like to, just like in the post, I can't make an official statement yet because there's still a lot that's unknown to the community and to us. And I don't, just like I've said, I have a whole theme of not shooting myself in the foot. Ideally, of course, I would want to make it happen. I think that there's a lot of potential in that platform, and I think it'd be beautiful to see the MD11 and, if possible, the 717 in there. But there's a lot of things that go into making that happen that I can't necessarily guarantee at this moment. We are, however, working on this project because we're starting it now. We're working on doing it in a way that it's not tied to the platform. So,
Global Flight Ops.
So I'll have to talk to them again. They support the 717, I think, to some degree. We're going to probably use a similar persistence system in the MD11. So with any luck, it should be a pretty easy system to bring on board. And it doesn't seem like there's going to be a conflict of interest, which is even better. So I'd hope so.
Any passenger variants for the MD11?
Yes.
Will the EFB be expanded on like what it is on the 717, etc.? Charts, low major, all that kind of stuff?
Yes, the 717 had the EFB we did on that one. It was kind of pioneering at the time, and we've looked back now at the way we did that, and we set it up in a way that you had to literally hard code the location of every single button, every single piece of text, everything, and it was very specific to that aircraft. So we do want to write a better system that is a little more expandable and has a lot more capabilities, potentially integrate Navigraph charts directly into it, things like that.
Will there be?
Will that then be back? would that then be backwards compatible to the 7.1?
In theory, yes. I don't want to guarantee it. But that if we were going to do that, I can see that being the type of thing that would happen as all the packages got updated for a new platform or a new iteration.
Will there be shared cockpit? I think we spoke about this earlier, but shared cockpit? Yes,
Yes.
there will be.
Yes.
TFDi is awesome. Have missed this beauty so much, and the other guys said there is no market for this bird. Awesome. The entire FS community wanted a new MD11. TFDi is delivering. PNG didn't want to listen to their customers. Different kinetics for the different engine models. Kinematics, different force vectors, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, an engine is more than just thrust, right? Obviously, the thrust curve and the drag curve associated with the engine itself is a huge piece of it, but how it affects the aircraft in flight matters too. I don't want to get too much into that because that's not my area of expertise. The guy that Martin Becker is the guy that does our flight dynamics, and he is a wizard. So I have absolute confidence that he will get all the nuances and intricacies of the differences correct, as much as is reasonably possible in the sim, of course. That little caveat.
So I don't know if we touched on this earlier. What was the decision process behind progressing to the MD11? Was it that the similarities to the 717, or was it just completely different thought process?
So for me, it was three things. Number one, yes, obviously the similarities does make it an easy target to land on because it reduces our time and cost significantly. But ultimately, that's not the deciding factor for us. We saw a huge amount of desire from the community. I think a lot of our 717 customers are also MD11 customers, or not customers yet. It's the MD11 fans, and I think that's that lent itself to us seeing a lot of that positive feedback there. And I also think it's a cool aircraft. Honestly, it's very unique, and it's similarity to the 717s, but uniqueness as an airframe by itself. It worked for me.
Will it have wing flex?
Yes.
Yes. Most important feature.
Most important feature. And sound. Okay, here's a question from me. Sound pack in regards to how are you going about the sounds? Are you calling on TSS or are you making your own sound pack?
So we've always been the divide and conquer group and let everybody do what they do best. So at this point, we're so early on in it. I mean, we're in the modeling stage. It'll be in sim within the next couple of days, and like it's already animated and all that stuff for the most part. But as far as the sounds are concerned, we're a little early on to have made a final decision yet. Of course, TSS has seemed like a good choice considering our past relationship with them.
717 pack sounds amazing.
And that's thank you. Yeah, he did a fantastic job with that.
Having worked around 717s in Australia, it sounds absolutely amazing. I think we answered this already, but the MD10 down the road, is that on the path?
As of now, that's not currently planned. Again, never say never, but no, not at this moment.
20. Oh, sorry. Go.
There's also a freeware sound pack by FTSim, I believe. I use them for my PMDG MD11. But you might want to have a look at that because they are really good. I'll link them in private.
That's it. If you send them to one of us or put it here in the chat, we'll take a look definitely.
Oh yeah.
So another big thing, since I've got a captive audience, so to speak, at the moment. I said it earlier on the stream, and I want to say it again now. One of the biggest ways that the 717 happened was that we had an enormous amount of support from the community during the development. And that was in terms of feedback. The windows is a great example. Our cockpit windows were wrong in the 717 during the development, and somebody spotted it, and that sparked a whole investigation on our side, and we figured out they were right, that like we were wrong and the reports are correct, and that led to a much better product. And the reason I say that is we intend to be very open about the development here at the MD11, but if you have documents, photos, videos, engine data, that's one of the hardest ones for us to get, is real meaningful engine data. The EPR simulation in P3D, as you may or may not know, is very limited, and we have to do a lot of that stuff on our own instead. So any data that you can send us of any information in any format is helpful.
So how do we? Okay, here's a question for the community. So for everyone out there, and by the way, we're talking about the newly announced TFDi MD11 coming to you guys in the future. The TFDi have come out and said they're developing it, and it's in a prolonged period of development. How do people get to you, Colin, and your team with regards to giving you information for the development of the aircraft?
Yes, so I actually will shout out to Josh on this. So we have a Google form that is the formal method of submitting it that we can use to keep it organized. As well, we're all here on Discord every day. We may not be in the voice channels, but we monitor it all the time. So if you hop in our Discord and just say, hey, I've got some information, can I talk to a dev? That'll work. Or the Google form is the more preferred formal method.
Cool.
And just to add on to that as well, I've just put a new MD11 questions channel in there as well. So if you've got any questions regarding the MD11, just kind of separate it from general. You can post them in there, and we'll get around to them.
Mr. Colin.
Yes.
Big question for you. Are you going to have any actual either current MD11 pilots or retired MD11 pilots provide input and work with them on tuning the aircraft?
Absolutely. We've got a couple guys who we've reached out to, and one of our developers is friends with, who is, I think, no longer an MD11 pilot, but he was for quite some time. And of course, any product of this nature, you need to have the real deal put their hands on it before we can say it's done.
Right. Okay.
One question there was 2021 or 2020. Sorry, 2020 or 2021 Christmas. Now I said, you've said, and I've said that you're not going to put a time on it. Is there any inclination whether it's this side or that side of the year?
It will not release to the public in 2020.
Cool.
Absolutely not.
Well, that's all right.
We made the mistake of promising a release date several years out last time, and that came back to haunt us in a big way. So we'll give general indications of status, but I refuse to make that mistake a second time.
How do you?
Yeah, and that's fair enough, and I think people should respect that as well. Like I just put it in the chat, guys. It's a standard practice, and I'm talking to the Twitch chat mostly here. It's a standard practice for most flight sim developers to not give release dates. So please try not to hound the guys about it, because it's not something that you're going to get that information until it's ready to be released.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that we can provide the best possible product, and as we've seen firsthand, pushing for a release date just to say we hit the date doesn't do anyone a service.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No.
And if I may, real quickly, weighing in as an avionics engineer and stuff, and I work on the real planes and whatnot, I will say that some of these systems are some of the most complex things inside the aircraft. Give it time. A lot of people don't understand the true grasp of how complex these systems are and how little information the flight sim developers actually get. Because they have FCOM, but they don't have the actual source code. They don't have the actual formulas used in the system. So, it takes time to reverse engineer and really pay attention to those small details. So, that takes a lot of time.
There we go. A couple of questions. A couple of questions there. Is it just Irish Pilot saying there, it is just so we don't hound anyone now. We know not to expect it this year. And I think that's very important there. And I think when FS Elite and that, you guys will obviously work with FS Elite and those other mediums of communication.
It's already published.
Yeah, well, wouldn't surprise me. They're probably watching the stream. Hi, FS Elite. Give me a shout out sometime.
I'm actually right here.
Oh, are we? Hello?
Yeah, I was about to say, someone's in the chat.
Well, there you go. I'll just shut up then.
Yeah.
First party.
Nick is
Yeah.
there.
Cool.
Yeah, they sent me the release about an hour ago, and I got it all up there ready for the initial time.
Nice. So will it be open to FS to crew compatibility?
So we kind of, I don't know what happened, if it was just a bad time, whatever. We weren't really able to open a solid line of communication with them for the 717. So I will offer the same amount of information for this that I did for that. There'll be an SDK is a limited term. There'll be a list of variables and events and things that can be used to do what needs to be done. If they are interested in doing it, then I'm open to it, absolutely. But at this moment, our focus is on the core product.
Okay. When this is released, will it have a livery manager for your add-on manager and possibly one added for the 717, or is that a matter that will be updated with new features along the way?
So the livery manager, or lack thereof, has probably been one of the biggest points of contention with the current add-on manager. So I think that just due to the feedback that we've had, we'll probably have to add it. I think it's a good thing to have, and especially now that we have the time to stop and do it properly.
Okay. Are you working on it full time, or do you have a day job?
So I'm doing this part time. I do have a day job, but I work that part time as well, so I'm kind of split. A lot of our guys, similarly, with the exception of one or two, do have regular jobs, but they put in about the same time.
Cool. Reduzo, I've just seen that. I have to thank TFDi for this opportunity. I was starting it as a sort of a podcast thing with a friend of mine, Matt Tank, who's one of the moderators there. And TFDi has jumped on board here and actually made this platform possible. So thanks goes to Colin and his team in regards to this absolute amazing opportunity that we've had, which we've seen the highest number ever, natural growth on the stream. So thank you very much, guys.
Absolutely. As I said, it's been great to have the platform here, and it's seeing so much excitement for the product and so much interest in it. It makes me happy, and it reminds us. It's just one of the many ways that it reminds us why we do what we do.
PMDG global operations compatibility, if that's even possible. I think we answered this already.
Yeah, a lot of third-party integration. It's something that we're going to keep in mind, of course, during development. But again, the focus right now is going to be on the core product itself, and then we'll look back at that as we get closer to release.
Not MD related, but any ETA for True Glass, True Light upgrade for V5?
Yep, they are both working in V5. We're just waiting on a couple of things to get ironed out in the new version of V3D. Some behavior that has been working for us in the past is no longer working, so we're waiting on clarification from Lockheed, whether that's in the form of a bug fix or them explaining to us ways we can circumvent that issue. But shouldn't be too far out now. And if you're interested in helping us test the beta of it, then we can just contact us and we can.
I'll do that. No worries. I'll say that with a big grin on my face.
What are the system requirements for the MD11? Do they know?
It should be along the same lines as the 717. We're going to push pretty hard for optimization. Of course, some of the textures might be a little higher resolution. The industry has changed quite a bit now since the 717 first began. So, for example, the night lighting textures will probably be quite a bit higher resolution, things like that. So, as long as you have a relatively modern GPU, the requirements shouldn't be outrageous.
I have an R9 390X 8 gigabyte. Will that pass it?
I have a 1080 with 8 gigs, so it should be along the same category. So yes,
Yep.
I would
You
say
have
so.
it paired with a 6-core Xeon X5650.
Can't match you on that one. You have more cores than me, but GPUs are similar.
Is that what you're saying?
You need a supercomputer. That's it. You need to have 15 GPUs, SLI. It's not even possible, but at least we support SLI now. I mean, that's a.
I was
that's
always
a plus.
interested in building a fixed base sim. Would you support that? There's a random question for you.
I'm sorry,
I was
what
thinking, talking about fixed base simulators and that, and the MD11 was always talked about as one of them. Would you support that kind of stuff? As in the software to run a fixed base simulator based on the MD11?
Like a desktop trainer.
Yeah, or like the SimFest guys or whatever.
So that's interesting. It's actually interesting because we talked about this on our Discord just before we got on this, and my original thought was we probably wouldn't put too much focus on it because there's not a huge market for commercial grade trainers because the aircraft isn't as widely used. However, you make a really good point. The cockpit builders. How many cockpit builders do you think there are that would want to use this?
The thing was that the MD11 has never been an option, and there are a large volume of flight decks available. Obviously, the aircraft are being chopped up as we speak, and as they come off the line from FedEx, UPS, and the like, so they're still being available. You never know. There may be a small market that might open up that may need some integration with the aircraft. I know I might be interested.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a case of as long as we develop it with that in mind, then like the panels and things, there will be no 2D panels. I'll just say that now. But just like the 717, there'll be a 2D MCDU. The displays will be able to be popped out, things like that. We'll do our best to try to make it work, but there's always going to be probably some limitations on that.
Get into some more questions. Are you going to create more defined effects included in the package, or will you be working with Parallel 42 to allow them to create this?
So I don't think that we're ever going to get to the same caliber of effects that they do. They have some really, really amazing things. So I don't want to say that we'll ever be on that level. Well, of course, we'll have some built in of our own, but some of the really advanced stuff we'll probably leave. Again, the divide and conquer, let them do what they do best.
Will MD11 improvements be ported to the 717 in the future?
Okay, so the programmer in me says that would be awesome to do. The code base for the MD11, however, is being, even though there's a lot of similarities, we are building it from scratch and then just taking pieces of the 717 when necessary. So because of that, it's not going to be necessarily a clean port backward. I would be more inclined to say, similarly to the tablet updates and whatnot, that if we were going to do that, it would be in the form of the next iteration of the 717 or an update to the new sim or something like that, where it would be a kind of a refactor of it more than just another free update.
If I can just ask a quick question, Colin.
Sure.
There's some people asking if there will be PBR.
Yes.
Or full
Yes.
PBR.
So we kind of set this up. That's kind of why we wrote it the way that we did about support for FSX and the older Sims. Is I told Ozzy when we first started this that let's build it to be modern and the best that it can be with the current market, which is going to include PBR things like that. At the end, you can render out PBR textures if it's a bit advanced, but it can be done. There's ways that you can kind of bake them into a diffuse texture, and it can be backported. But the intent is to use PBR and all the modern technologies to give it the best appearance that it can.
How will the painters be able to get the hands on the model when ready to start playing and making some paints for the bird?
Well, it won't be a year and a half after release, so more than likely, it'll be provided via the forums or something similar when the time comes. I don't want to make any promises on when exactly that'll be, but the sooner we can get it into the hands of the painters in a way that makes sense for everyone, the better. I want there to be as many liveries as there can because I think that adds a lot to VAs even if they're fictional liveries, just the ability to do that.
Short one was about virtual cabins.
There will not be a virtual cabin.
In terms of the
Go ahead.
In terms of deliveries, would you consider working with indie builds with their fantastic liveries?
So again, we're kind of a little early on for exactly how we want to do that. We have our own list as internally. I'm not personally familiar with. You said it was indie builds.
Yeah, they've done the initial liveries for the 767. A lot of them were indie builds.
Okay.
I build.
I build. Okay, yeah, we do have a guy on our team, but I have no problem expanding. Again, that's something as we get closer down the line. I'll talk to our painter and see where that might be. That effort might be best applied.
Chili Willies, hey Chili, how are you? Congrats, a project that I know so many people have wanted in 64-bit for a long time. Chili, welcome. Man, I love you. Can you give me a son or a daughter? I think he's talking to you, Colin, not me.
What?
What? I might have to call my girlfriend first.
A couple of questions on smart cars. News about smart cars 3 maybe, and what can be said about smart cars server issue a few weeks ago?
Okay, so the smart cars, I'll start with the easier of the two. So the server issues. Honestly, we outgrew some of our infrastructure, and we tried to get it to work as best we could, and it just wasn't happening. Over the last couple weeks, we did an enormous migration of all of our stuff. We split our resources in half across 2 different machines to help better handle that load. Since then, it's been a much better. There's been a better time getting everything to stay stable. Smart cars is the same thing. There's been a couple teething issues on the new machines, making sure that our resource limits are set right and that all the fancy technical stuff is exactly the way it should be. It should be pretty stable, knock on wood now, but I know I will eat my words if I say that. So there shouldn't be any more issues going forward, though. And if you do experience any, please reach out to us on any of our support methods. To answer the question about Smart Cars 3, so we did announce that. But basically, what we've been doing for the last couple of years is we have tossed around different ideas for ways to do a better platform for Smart Cars 3, a better way of doing customization and deployments to reduce some of that time and workload on our side, better pilot side features, and we have this whole mega list of stuff. We literally have gone through every single page of the application, laid it out, written it out. It's just a matter of making sure that we're taking it the right direction. Right as we were about to get started with that, something else popped up across our desk. I can't really go into too much detail right now because there's so many things that are kind of unfinished, but we're kind of at a crossroad for the project right now where it can go one of 2 ways, and until we know which way it's going to go, we're holding off on any further announcements, but we will continue to keep everybody updated over the next couple of weeks as that develops further.
Will there be cabin sounds?
In what way?
I assume so. I think sometimes you can hear like things ruffling around, and the likes of Aerosoft with
I think that question might be similar to what FS Labs does. If you're in the exterior view and like you put the camera into like a wing view position looking out the window, it actually sounds like you're in the cabin instead of outside the plane.
Okay, I figured that might be what it is. So I know it's possible to be done. I don't think it was possible the way we did our sounds in the first iteration in the 717. So I don't want to say yes or no because something we can look into. I do think that would be cool. Alternatively, there's other ways we might be able to get away with something similar that still accomplishes that same goal.
Some pretty cool questions there. GSX integration, similar to FS like FS Labs, where it integrates with opening doors and controls.
Well, I think the easiest way for us to accomplish that is we've assigned a lot of our doors and things to default, like the default door animations and stuff, so they maintain compatibility. Custom stuff, absolutely, we'll reach out and make sure that we do our part to be part of that system.
Sorry, I'm just updating our title because it's announcement pending.
You're welcome. I thought you might need
Thank you,
to
mate.
be
Thank
reminded
you.
there.
Thank you very much. What do we got? Indie Builds is always happy to help with deliveries from MJ from Indie Builds. So there you go. Would you
Awesome.
guys like to support a form of aid card similar to Hoppy's aid cards for integration with VATSIM, so CPDLC?
I think that with all the things that are on the market right now that are going this way, it'd be silly not to provide an interface with which that could be done. So it's a specific product at this point. Again, we're so early on that kind of falls into the third-party integration idea for me. So it'll be built with that type of thing in mind, but we won't start actually supporting specific methods of that until much later on.
Will failures be simulated, or like stuff happens randomly or anything like that? I know my channel likes failures because I have a channel points thing where you claim 50,000 channel points and I get a bloody failure.
Okay, so that's the thing. Even the 717, it is technically coded that it could support failures. It's just a matter of that we didn't actually do it. It's like that the way the code is done internally, it isn't just like, is engine on. It's actually broken down to the output from the engine itself into the voltage coming from the generator into the relays that control the different systems. So if we're going to code the MD11 to that standard or even better. So I think that it's just going to be a matter of figuring out what failures are needed, what ones are common, and what the easiest way to do that is without significantly extending the cost or development time.
I've totally neglected Discord even though it's there. Are you guys planning on adding PBR to the 717?
In all seriousness, as much as it's not the answer that I want to give, so much work, going back to what we talked about earlier, so much work and support has gone into that post-release that as pretty as I think it would look with PBR, it's hard to embark on yet another 717 project. I think we owe it to the customers of our products that have come out after that, and now the MD11 to focus on that. But again, that's the type of thing that would get wrapped into that big iteration of the 717. There's a couple of things that we can do to bring it. It's 4 years old already. There's a couple of things we can do. By the time we're done with the MD11, it'll be going on. I don't know exactly when that'll be, but it's going to be at least 5 years total. Not the MD11, but the 717 will be a total of at least 5 years old. And I don't think it would be a bad time for it to be potentially looked at for a new iteration or something of that nature, where we can really take the time to focus on it and do it right, not just a quick little update so it's got it, quote unquote.
One question that I haven't seen and I was expecting a lot earlier than now is, will the MD11 have a realistic version of Bitching Betty?
That's the only time you can get away with saying that on a formal stream, right? That's why I love this nomenclature for that. So the 717's installation of it was pretty close to the real one based on everything that we could tell, and I intend to do the same thing for the MD11. Yes.
Beautiful. Is there any other questions out there? Anyone else? We're talking with the owner and the team over at TFDi. Thank you very much, guys, for the opportunity. They have announced their MD11. You can check out their blog post on their website. You can also check out Twitter for all the releases. And FS Elite as well has also released their public announcement. The aircraft is not due to come out this side of the year. They've said they're not going to put a time limit on it. They're going to try and deliver a perfect product. The aircraft will come with both engine types. Yes, we know. And it will also be in the shape, I think we mentioned that it will have all the passenger variants, and then the freighter may come at a later time. Is that correct, Colin? I think that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, as far as time for it, I'm not sure what the release schedule will be like. Ideally, I'd like to be able to have them all as one package, but again, there's so many variables there before we can know for sure.
And Colin also mentioned that for a price range at the moment, they're looking at something lower than triple digits with what would be a high quality product. We definitely would assume, correct?
Yes, yeah, it should be at or above 717 quality.
Will the MD11 have clickable exterior spots like the Mad Dog?
For the engines and doors? Yeah, we should. I mean, That should be fairly straightforward to do. I think the 717 actually
Does
does in for some of its areas. Yes,
All the
I would have
doors,
to check.
Yeah.
I need to go check. Yeah, Matt, we got to check that out.
Yeah, no, the doors and the cabin doors and the cargo door definitely do. The engines, I don't believe they do.
There you go.
Yeah, the engine's
I'm learning
no.
something with the.
Well, what would the engine be for? Like to open the cowl?
Yeah, I guess some people like to have that sort of maintenance mode or look, I guess.
Yeah, that going into that level of like the maintenance type simulation, as impressive as it is probably not something that's going to be in the initial scope of this project. So doors, or engines, I don't make any promises, but the doors, yeah.
Will there be small things like emergency slides and the like being able to be open and open the engine cowling? I think we mentioned the engine cowling, but obviously a release of an aircraft just recently, it had emergency slides and whatnot. Would that kind of stuff be included, or that's not really your taste?
Again, if we're going to go after the failures and do that, which, full disclosure, the failures may end up coming as an additional package potentially. Again, for the same reason, so we can make sure that we do it right, as opposed to just tossing a few in, and then it also allows customers that don't want it to not have to pay for it. Anyway, that being said, if we're going to go after a formal failures package that's going to have all this extra stuff, then yeah, I think it would make sense to include some of the visual effects and systems that go along with that.
So with that, the thought in my head at the moment would be, would you just go with a TFDi MD11 normal package and then a TFDi Pro package that comes at a later date with, so that way it's all bundled up in one price code rather than having to continually pay on after that?
The semantics of how exactly that would be done is kind of uncharted territory for us. Like I said, up to date, we've never done a split package like that, so we would honestly probably reach out to the community when we got there and say, like, here's what we have, here's the features, what would be everybody's preferred way of doing this? Because the other thing is, if somebody were to buy the base package, I'd want to provide a really easy path for them to add more onto it without having to rebuy anything or go through any double purchasing. So we want to make sure we're hitting that on both fronts.
Will you be able to ditch the aircraft on the water without bouncing it like the Mad Dog?
I can't go into great detail about that yet. That's where we're getting into real specifics on a package I'm not even sure if we're going to have yet. So
a bit of an early question, obviously, but how will GSX be supported? I think we spoke about more in lines of how it will be with FSX, but generally, obviously, it will support GSX. And obviously your own product as well, which is CGX.
Yes.
Okay. Could do something like Majestic and have the same plane but with more features like failures. Okay. Will there be an electronic fight plan? We also asked that earlier as well.
Yeah, so we'll have the tablet, or kind of an upgraded version of the tablet that's in the 717.
Other questions?
In terms of, I've been seeing about on Discord chat servers, the middle wheel on the main undercarriage, apparently that's lockable in the up position for maintenance. Will that be simulated at all?
Josh was just talking about this earlier. Didn't you say it was a locked switch?
Yeah, so it's a locked switch underneath the gear lever, so obviously you have to flick a cap up and then you can either allow it to retract or you can keep it locked down, essentially. So it locks it in position wherever it is.
So yeah, our policy has generally been, if it's something that you can physically do within the cockpit, then yes, it'd be supported. Just like the fire handles in the 717. Like, you're not going to ever randomly have a fire, but if you pull them, it'll still cut your fuel, it'll still disperse the fire retardant, and it'll behave the way it should. The same would be true here. So if it can be done by the cockpit controls, then yes, it will work that way.
What we got here? Out of everything you've learnt making the 717, what would you like to do different with this project besides the release date?
Oh man, we don't have that kind of time. No. Anyway, at its organization is the biggest thing for us. So the 717 was such a learning experience. I mean, and everything is, right? Like, you're always going to learn, but in this time we're coming into it, I think, with a lot greater perspective of what it truly means to release a product and develop a product of this caliber. And because of that, we can set up our infrastructure, our code, our files, our team scheduling, all of that stuff to support a much more productive environment. And I think that it's hard to answer that in even a couple of sentences without getting into ridiculous technical detail.
That's fair enough. Will there be an option for like the older standby steam gauges versus the newer electronic standby, or will it have only one type?
I've always thought that was cool, the ability to select the different standbys. On the 737s, I was always partial to the old mechanical ball. I know a lot of the newer operators went to the electronic ESIS, but within reason, yeah, I'd like to be able to support things like that.
And that would obviously be whether through the EFB or your FMC, whatever it may be, and obviously that's semantics now. But yeah.
Yeah, it's
just sort of another question. I'll let you finish, Colin, first before I ask, but I'll just get my name in there.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to be careful when I answer some of these questions. You know, again, we are talking about some things where the final decision may have to be made months to years. You know, hopefully not years, but at least weeks to months from now. So what I'm giving you is kind of my right out of the gate, off the cuff answer. So there may definitely be some of these answers that are refined or changed slightly as the product itself becomes more defined in the next couple of weeks to months. So I just want to put that kind of disclaimer out there that it's not necessarily final gospel. That's it. It's never changing.
Yeah. We saw in the 717 the splash light for the tail logo.
Yes, it's washed out.
It was like it was a texture rather than being an effect file. Is that something that, not so much with the 717, like whether you do it or don't, it's not that much of an issue. Is it something that is going to change with the MD11? Like, if you overhauled the lighting for the exterior of the aircraft, or what's the go there?
Again, given the time to actually to address some of these things properly and not have to backport it into an existing product. So some of the complexity in solving these problems in the 717 comes from the fact that we still have to maintain it for FSX. So it's hard for us in some cases to do this because there may be an easy fix. Like the dynamic lighting offers a lot of options, of course, in P3D, but that doesn't exist in FSX. You have to find a way to do it for both. So being that we're developing this primarily to support the modern platforms, and then we'll be backporting it to the old ones as opposed to the other way around, I don't see issues like that persisting.
Got a cat in the way. Could there be an underneath flight hour counter so the flight deck gets dirtier over time, oil level decreases, aircraft more prone to failures?
You know, we talked about like the things getting dirty, like having to wipe off and wash displays and windows and things. We actually discussed that for the 717. It is a surprisingly complex thing to do that because you pretty much have to make the glass itself you either have to make 15 copies of the glass variations, or you have to render them real time. And either way, it's not exactly the most performant and efficient method of doing it. I think it'd be cool, but I fear that we might be going too much into the finer details that don't truly affect the operation of the product, and I wouldn't want to sacrifice development time or performance if there is no tangible benefit. So I'm not going to say no, but that's essentially in the kind of like wish list area of the features.
Cool. Will the exterior lights all be dynamic instead of static?
Yeah, that's what we just spoke about.
I did ask that. Okay.
Yeah, at least in the newer sims, absolutely.
I've been waiting for the rotate for 3 years for the MD. As long as you beat them, you have my money. No.
Well, they're in X-Plane, right? You know, they're developing for X-Plane. We're developing for P3D FSX series. So hopefully, I'd like to think that there's room for the products to coexist as the two markets are very different, right?
Will there be like accumulation of snow on the body of the aircraft, or like window effects like fog, bugs, rain, etc.?
Fog and rain will be covered by True Glass automatically, and we're kind of talking about adding ice support to that over the next couple weeks as well. So those windshield effects will be taken care of by True Glass. And I saw earlier, will it come with real light and True Glass out of the gate? Yes, absolutely. So as far as the accumulation on like the wings and control surfaces, I think that's a really cool. It's a cool system. I would want to work with our flight dynamics guy to make sure that if we're going to represent the visual part of it, that the flight performance characteristics are reflected as well. So that's a more complex question than just showing ice on the wings.
I've just picked up on the Discord there that we're talking about TFDi Twitch page, which is Twitch TV/TFDi Design. We intend to be transparent with the MD11 build with from forum posts to development streams. Do you guys have any idea how that will form and what you plan to do on those streams, or is it more just a show and tell?
Well, if something I've always really enjoyed doing is kind of opening the door, so to speak, and the looking glass into what actually goes on. We did a couple for PAX. I think we did one for the 717, where it was literally just a work day, and I'll just hop up in a stream, and I'll share my screen while we're working on stuff, and that's essentially what we do in our Discord most of the time. And I kind of sometimes want to open it. There will also be more formal like progress announcements where it'll be a little more succinct and all encompassing, and then it'll also be, I think we'll dig a little deeper on some of those.
Beautiful. Couple of big questions now. Will you be using the same tool that the Majestic software use for flight dynamics, so it doesn't have such a on rails feeling when etc. simulating icing?
More than likely for the flight dynamics, we're going to do something similar to what we did with the 717. We did receive a lot of positive feedback on how it flew.
That's a great plane.
We did that. Thank you. We did that through. So we used the flight dynamics built into the simulator, but the actual control surfaces in our case were done a little more custom, where our code managed the actual deflection of the surfaces. Similarly with the ground handling, we did that ourselves instead of just relying on the sim. So I think in this case, we'll probably use the existing flight dynamics to some extent, and then augment as necessary to get where we're trying to be with it.
Just going to read a question here. It's what do we got here? Earlier said MD11 freighter may come at a later date and maybe full failures. Would this be added, say, as in a freighter expansion? Personally, I wouldn't mind this, say, PAX version without full failures and maintenance features being extra, being, say, £60, and the freighter expansion including maintenance and full features being, say, £15 add-on. That's one of the feedbacks from the community, obviously, that you'll look at over time as well.
I have to say, it's actually been very enlightening for us too. I think to be able to see in real time how people feel about the different ways of approaching this. It's very different on this side sometimes because of course it comes down to logistics and finances for some of it. So it's nice to see that there's an understanding of that on both sides.
If there's, I think we're starting to get basically repeat questions now. I think what we might do is sort of wrap up the stream here, and obviously for you guys, you're probably running on adrenaline, so sort of let you guys get your thoughts together and whatnot over there, and obviously they can speak. If there's any more questions now, sort of direct them to your Discord. Personally, I'd like to thank you, Colin, and to Fabio and to Josh for driving us all insane over the last couple of hours with the fun there. That was a lot, very good. It's bloody 2 a.m. in the morning here in Dubai, and Matt's it's 8 o'clock in the morning for Matt.
I messaged him being like, "Go to bed." It's too late.
At this point, there's no real reason to. I may as well just stay up and grab breakfast.
But
Ooh. Well, we appreciate you sticking it out for the long haul with us. Haha, long hauler.
Tri-hauler.
We're looking forward to the long haul.
I'll see myself out.
Colin, yeah.
I tell you, the first flight that I'm doing is actually a flight that I actually flew on the MD11 a long time ago, which was Melbourne to Bangkok on the Thai Airways MD11. But
which means he's gonna bother me for a Thai Airways.
Yeah, so give him the paint kit.
Synergy.
That's how it works. We all work together, eh? Symbiotic. On that note, I've got a cat running around. Guys, thank you very much for the opportunity today. I'll stick around in the Discord and we'll have a further chat because I know I've got some messages there. Guys, thank you very much for. I think at one point we had 150 viewers. I think at one point that's insane for this channel. We've had that many followers. We had a hype train. We've had all that sort of stuff. So thank you very much for joining into the stream. I think we're gonna go and head over. We're gonna go and raid Citation Max, and we're gonna go give him a bit of a host. So stick around, give him a raid. I will catch you all a little bit later. Thank you very much to the TFDi team.
Oh, it's cold out
there,
boys.
I really appreciate
yeah,
it.
it's
Let
4.
me mute him
Get some,
off, and we'll head over there. So stick around. We're off to Citation Max.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And now we just wait 7, 6, 7. I hate this time that it takes to go and raid someone because you've got to go and wait for everyone to join into the raid. Alright, so we're going to go and raid now. There we go.
Oh, the raid mechanic is so weird on Twitch.
Oh, it is.
How's that work? What is that?
Okay, service stuff. Okay, sounds good to me.
It basically sends all your